Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Done.
All right. Before we start, for the people that are home, watching television and aren't familiar with us, I'm going to introduce everyone. At this end of the table, Kathy Soroy is the admin assistant to the Selectmen. David Mountain just came in through the rain. Jeff Walker, I'm Joe Story, Mike Bulgaris, Chuck Bear, and Tracy Blaze. Okay. All right. Board and committee report. Capital planning. Bob, yeah. Let's hide over there.
Joe, I'd like to have a handout if I could present it to you guys. This is the binder that was handed out at the joint meeting of the Capital Planning, Finance Committee, and Board of Fire Engineers. Jeff, I'm gonna get that back from you because you already have a copy,
Yep.
but that's possible. And here is a meeting summary from that report.
Thanks.
My name's Bob Connors. I'm chairman of the Capital Planning Committee, and I live on Annapolis Way. The handout I just presented you was, the binder was handed out at our joint meeting last month at the firehouse regarding the request for a fire truck from Protection 2. It was a joint meeting of the Capital Planning Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Board of Fire Engineers. The separate handout I gave you is actually the meeting summary, very similar to the attachment, but it's been updated to reflect dates. Why don't I quickly go over the background on this? Back on October 30th, Newbury Fire Protection 2 put in a equipment replacement request to replace a 1989 pumper that had been experiencing numerous breakdowns. It's out of certification pursuant to NFPA standards. And the annual operational cost now exceed the annual purchase cost if it was to be replaced. The Capital Planning Committee back in November 21st at a regular meeting took this request under advisement and forwarded the request submittal to the Board of Fire Engineers for review recommendations. As a follow-up, we were contacted again that Fire Protection 2 was having additional problems with the truck and had broken down on numerous occasions. And in fact, one day driving down the street, I saw it on a tow truck, so I can verify that this truck certainly was having its issues. We later learned that at the November 18th Board of Fire Engineers meeting, Protection 2 had also made this request, provided a copy to the Board of Fire Engineers for their review, and I was informed that the recommendation from the Board of Fire Engineers at that meeting was recommended to replace the truck with a new pumper. A joint meeting of the Capital Planning, Finance Committee, and Board of Fire Engineers was held on December 16th to address this request, review contingency plans for coverage, funding options, ownership options, and to reach a consensus on the next steps. The attachments that you have there, the different tabs, I'll refer to those if from time to time. But over the last several years, because of Newbury's finances, many of our departments, and specifically the fire departments, have been level funded to the amounts from the previous year. And then for a number of years, actually, the budget had to be cut on those line items to be able to balance the budget. Both departments in the past have used collected fees. They generate fees through ambulances, fundraising, bequests. In the past, they were using these fees to build reserves to continue to replace the equipment that they owned as it reached the end of its useful life. Because of the budget constraints that the town has faced and the limited funding we've been able to provide both fire companies, both companies now have been required, or have been, I shouldn't say required, have been using these added revenue that they raise separately from town money to basically fund their day-to-day operations. But now they are experiencing trouble maintaining the equipment that they have. Their fleets are aging. And now we're faced with a major capital request for replacement of one of their fire truck pumpers. By unanimous vote at this joint meeting, the Capital Planning Committee recommended the purchase of a new pumper with a not-to-exceed amount of $450,000. That's kind of an unusual vote for capital planning to have an amount and an action like that. The equipment submittal originally was more general, that was submitted to the Capital Planning Committee. We requested a more specific request for equipment or a vehicle that was more designed for the service area where the truck would be operating within the fire station and the route. And Protection 2 came back with a far more detailed request. And you can look at tab 7 and tab 8. Tab 7 was the equipment request. That was the information that was provided to capital planning as additional information. The following tab, tab 8, was the warranty information. One thing looking at this, and certainly we don't present ourselves to be experts, but looking at new equipment versus used equipment, the warranties on new equipment, although they vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, this particular manufacturer that was submitted by Protection 2 has a very extensive warranty for a piece of emergency response equipment. Basically, it's a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, which is pretty unheard of for that type of equipment, with extended warranties on other components such as the actual water tank, the pump, the body, paint, and rust protection. One item that did not reach the 5-year warranty level were the axles and springs. And typically, they're sized accordingly, but the abuse that they can be subjected to by putting a truck in the wrong spot or under the wrong conditions, that's only a 2-year warranty, which is really industry standard. We've made some recommendations as guidelines on what the next steps may be considered by the Board of Selectmen. If you turn to page 3 of my handout, these are some of the recommended guidelines for purchasing this type of equipment. It certainly is highly specialized, and it's certainly a large amount of money. And I think the one thing that we came away from the joint meeting was that as the town is looking at this, this is really uncharted waters for the town, the thought was we really need to get the right vehicle, if this is the path that we're going in, and make sure it's going to match the service area, and spend the money up front with the proper warranties so that we can get the longest useful life out of this type of purchase. one of the key recommendations was, first I want to say the submittal that was presented by Protection 2 was quite detailed, and being provided with the full warranty information on that particular fire truck was very helpful in our review. But traditionally, when you're getting into a level of detail or complexity that this type of purchase has, it's recommended that, one, you either put together a limited amount of people on a committee, and honestly, I would urge hiring a consultant that specializes in this type of equipment purchase so that you can determine the proper specifications and review all of the submittals that have been made, and then go forward at least with all the proper information, proper research completed. If you have any questions, I know you're just getting these binders for the first time, but within them, if you want to quickly go through the tabs, tab 1 was the meeting summary that was prepared. It's very similar to the one I handed out, but this was the proposed meeting document, and that's actually the meeting summary that was handed out to you. Tab 2 is a spreadsheet going back over the last 12 years, and it shows you really the impact of level funding not adjusted for inflation, and it's pretty eye-opening. Tab 3, it gives you a list of apparatus that is currently owned by Protection 2, and as you peruse that list, the newest fire engine is a 1995. Engine 10, which is the one that's has been requested to be replaced, is a 1989. But as you go down through the list, it is an aging fleet of equipment. On tab 5, it gives you the current capital request presently before capital planning, totaling approximately $826,000, almost $827,000, including a line item of $325,000 for this truck as it came in. Tab 6 gives you the actual request. Tab 7 is the actual submittal on the proposed fire engine. Tab 8 is the associated warranty. If anyone has any questions?
Yeah, I think it's a question both to Bob and probably to Tracy as well. I mean, I don't doubt the need for this equipment. The question is, how do we pay for it? You know, we've rode out the recession through some very hard work by a lot of people, especially Tracy. We're digging our way out. As your numbers show, we're starting to get back up to the kind of levels we funded our fire companies, 10 years ago now. But we're still not home free yet, and this is a pretty big chunk of cash. So in terms of the budget for the coming year, really what are our options?
If you look on the last page, David, of the handout, this is more of a worksheet, but it is representative of budget numbers. And when you take our certified cash stabilization fund land sale account, it totals approximately $2.2 million. And again, I don't hold these numbers exactly, but they're within a reasonable amount of being accurate. One of the things that we've not been able to do in the past is to retain the proper reserves that the Department of Revenue recommends and our bond rating company looks at if we're going to be going out into the bond market for future bond issues. When you adjust, if you look at, DOI recommends a minimum reserve of free cash of 3% of your annual budget. That represents $505,000. Now, one of the things we've learned over the last few years, I really didn't think it was possible to have a negative free cash. But I think in 2010 or 2011, and Tracy could certainly update us on that, we experienced that. And hence why the Department of Revenue recommends that you do not end a fiscal year without having that minimum reserve, because you really are waiting for the next recap by DOI to certify what your free cash is. In that instance, we were actually a negative approximately $150,000. The recommended stabilization fund reserve is 5% or $842,000. We currently have $391,000 in that. I mean, a perfect example of that is this year as our snow budget, I can only imagine where we're going to end up and what type of a deficit we're going to have with our snow budget at the end of this year. It could be $75,000 to $250,000. And again, that's why having proper reserves on hand. When you go through all of that, you have available funds of approximately $900,000 between all of those accounts. If we now have made a recommendation of a not to exceed amount of $450,000, we basically have an available, unencumbered available funds above $450,000, taking into consideration the fire truck. But I think the point, and it's the point David was making, we know we already have capital improvement liabilities at the elementary school and the library, and they total almost $2.2 million, and those are unfunded at this time. So even though it may look that we have a lot of cash in one area, at the end of the day, this is, I think it's a good worksheet to look at on what monies are available today, but not overlooking what our unfunded liabilities are of the near future.
So, Tracy, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing I'd add is we ran some schedules to look at funding it over a 10-year period in hopes of adding a small line item to the operating budget that would fund capital outlay on a year-to-year basis. Because if you look at the age of some of the apparatus, it's very clear that this isn't the only piece that will have to be replaced. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the thing that I worry about is that the land sale fund is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Right.
And so we have to think about all of these capital expenditures, you know, and how to prioritize them. And some things could be delayed a little bit longer than others and so forth. And
yeah, ideally, when we see the stabilization fund get funded to a level that we're comfortable with, we'd see a combination of those funds as well as the operating budget to replace those
but clearly
big
it's a capital
expenditures.
purchase, so the land sale fund is
Appropriate.
a very appropriate place to take the money.
Tracy, this is a capital purchase, but have we looked into, or is one of the options of entering into a municipal lease agreement?
Yes.
We've done this before.
Yeah, that's what.
Worked out pretty well.
That's what I was talking about, the 10-year lease agreement. I think they were running around 2.6 for the interest rates right now, so. Yep.
So, if I understand this, and I was at the Board of Fire Engineers meeting and really came up to speed pretty heavily on the needs for protection too, and you know, what they were looking forward to if this couldn't be done. What is the task at hand for the selectmen tonight? We, with capital planning, recommending, and I imagine that the next step for for the selectmen would be to enter into some of the steps. Are we going to vote tonight to say yes, or are we voting to enter into the steps for moving towards purchases? What's at hand tonight for us?
I think tonight is really just to provide you a committee report of what's taken place in December at this joint meeting. and providing you with information. I mean, certainly there's a lot to digest here, and whether there's a recommendation by the selectmen to go forward, the funding mechanism certainly is critical. It would seem to me that if we were going to do a lease purchase option, we almost have to put money into the stabilization account to allocate to cover those payments, because certainly appropriations are subject to available funds on a yearly basis. But I think that's where, Tracy, I would rely on her and her expertise on what would be the appropriate next step for funding if the board decides to go forward and recommend this appropriation.
I think, to answer you, Jeff, like our next step really comes when we put the warrant together on what we put on the warrant, because it's the voters that have to approve it ultimately at town meeting.
Bob, I know, just quickly skimming the document, you looked at several different options, one of which being outright purchase. I wonder if you could just briefly review the other options and the pros and cons and why you are recommending the purchase option.
Really, we're recommending, we've just really, David, recommended a not to exceed amount of $450,000. We did not really submit a funding mechanism for this. We were deferring to our town administrator for that. I mean, certainly you write the check. I think just to back up, this is a perfect example that when we have these annual structural deficits in funding, which we've gone through the last several years, and we've gone for override attempts to fill that gap, this is the result. When you don't have funds to fully fund all of your operations, it gets deferred to a point now where we're now faced with this large capital expenditure. Whether it's a lease purchase, David, or some other mechanism, I think those would all be questions the Board of Selectmen would want to review and then with a town administrator determine what the next step would be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm aware of the process, and as you know, I'm a numbers guy on top of
Yes.
it, and I've
Oh,
managed
certainly.
many budgets. And but I'm just trying to get your personal take, from your role on the capital planning committee. 'Cause
I mean,
know we got to think about long term as well as short term, right? And
I mean,
know you
my personal first thought would simply be that, I mean, I look at it that we have a $2.2 million unfunded liability on already known capital improvements. And I don't want the illusion to think that we've got this pot of gold and surplus land and all of these other accounts. We need to think about how we're going to fund all these things over the next several years and what mechanism we're going to use. But it would seem that depending on, in business, if you have the cash, you pay for it because it's the cheapest dollars, you don't pay the finance cost. If you want to reserve cash or preserve cash, doing a lease purchase would certainly, with a lease option with a purchase at the end, a closed-end lease, would certainly be something to look at. But I don't think I would, even if we take that course of action, I would still think that it may be prudent to take certain amount of monies for this purchase and put it into the stabilization fund. I mean, literally take the $450,000 out of free cash, land sale, available funds, transfer it to our stabilization account, and then draw that down annually to pay the lease. Or fund it some other way if revenues change. But that way there we get to preserve cash over a period of time, but we're not going to wind up in a fiscal year where we don't have the funds to pay for this. And then what do we do?
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm a little confused here, because it's my understanding that the land sale money needs to go to capital expenditures.
It does.
Right, and if you put it in the stabilization fund, it could go a lot of different places, right?
No, the money in the land sale account can't be transferred into the
Okay,
stabilization fund. That
that's what I
has to
was
be
thinking, that
expended
didn't sound right
for
to me.
a capital project. But I think you said free cash, moving free
I
cash
think,
into
but
stabilization.
can't you allocate it in there, though? I mean, as long as it's restricted, but again, this is really Tracy's expertise, that it
Yeah.
just seems to me we shouldn't go buy something and not make some plan of reserve
Yeah.
for the future.
I think ultimately, budgets are just due this past Friday, so I'm putting it all together right now. But I think ultimately what you'll see is a combination, utilization of some of our reserves, as well as some type of an appropriation in the operating budget, because that's something that we've really been deficient in, not funding our capital outlay in all of DPW, police and fire should have that account in there. Now, whether or not we'll have the ability to do it this year or not is another question, but.
Yeah, I'm really raising these questions, not expecting to have all the answers tonight, but at least
Understood.
what's going through my mind, and I'm sure is going through, other people's mind in town government, and over the coming weeks, we got to get that budget put together and eventually the warrant.
Yep.
for the
It's certainly
town.
uncharted waters, David, on this approach. But the realization is the need is real. It is life safety, first responders. And seeing this piece of equipment on a tow truck more than once in the last few months is very convincing, at least for me.
All right.
So we get the information,
Yep.
and the next step is we'll get a recommendation from Tracy on,
Yep.
on how to finance it, and then it goes to the voters, right?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Bob. All right. Tonight, on the agenda, we have no citizens' concerns. We have no public hearings. Town administrators report.
Okay, I just wanted to report back from the board on Monday. I attended a meeting in Newburyport with the mayor, and Sam Joslin, the building commissioner, and Doug Packer, the conservation agent, joined me. We met with Mayor Holliday and other members of her administration representing Department of Public Services, the water and the sewer functions of the city's government. And we basically went there to discuss with her our concerns about being able to defend the water and sewer system in the event of a storm that would, had the potential to compromise the system. They agreed that it was an issue, and what we've decided to do is to continue working with them to establish a protocol that for the defense of the system. Basically, what we would do is once that document was put together, we'd bring it before the Board of Selectmen as well as the City Council for approval, and then present it in public hearings and send out mailings as well. But that was the first meeting to identify the issue, and we'll continue meeting with them periodically, and I'll update you as information is available. Also wanted to ask the board if they would consider declaring a snow and ice emergency declaration this evening. We are down to $28,000 in the account, and my guess is when all the bills from the last storm are submitted that we will exceed our appropriation.
All right,
Motion to declare emergency.
Second.
okay, just for everyone's information, snow and ice is something you can overspend the budget. It's I think probably the only thing,
Yep.
okay?
Steve, you're right.
But in order to overspend it, we gotta declare, make this declaration, okay?
And we also have to fund the deficit at the end of the year as well, so.
So, all right. Any other discussion, questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Just wanted to ask the board to think about goals for the budget preparation, any budget goals you'd like to establish. Maybe we could talk about it at the next meeting to finalize them, but just if you could have that in mind. The fire company lease agreements have been downloaded into your Dropbox. I haven't received any comments. I thought we could I'll wait until the next meeting. If you have any comments, you could get those to me for updating. We found a couple of things that need to be adjusted, but before presentation, I wanted to remind you about the Community Preservation Act presentation tomorrow night here at 7 o'clock. And also wanted to ask the board if they would consider making an appointment of the Graves Registration Officer. I believe, is Donnie here?
Yeah.
Yep,
Tonight,
it's on new business today.
We were made aware of the fact that we haven't had one in the past. So he has volunteered to take on that task. If the board would consider making that appointment.
You wanna do that right now?
Sure.
Motion to appoint Donald Jarvis.
Second.
Any questions, comments? I've got a question. What does it do? The position?
Do you want to come up, Dawn, or? Okay, I'll just give
You know more than, all right, Tracy can then.
I'll just give you a brief update. They're going to keep track of all of the veterans in all of the cemeteries, keep a listing, make sure the graves are decorated, work in conjunction with the veterans agent.
Okay, good. Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it.
Appointment of Curtis Walton and Keith Grant. It's under your town
safety.
administrator.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The Public Safety Complex Committee, we never formally appointed two of the members who have been in attendance since the very beginning, Curtis Walton and Keith Grant. So I would ask the board
I
for,
move we appoint the two.
Second.
Any other questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you, Chair.
All right. We have an appointment of Charles Colby as Reserve Police Officer, recommended by Chief Riley. Next thing here. Dear Honorable Board of Selectmen, I respectfully request your approval for the appointment of the following person, Reserve Police Officer Charles Colby. Mr. Colby has been a reserve dispatcher with the police department since 9/25/12. He's completed reserve officer training and has shown an excellent work ethic and demeanor. His appointment to reserve officer is the next step in his progression with the Newbury Police Department. This appointment is budget neutral, as reserve officers fill in vacancies in the police schedule and do not add to the budget. The required personnel action form for this appointment has been submitted to the Personnel Board. Respectfully submitted, Michael Riley, Chief of Police.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have two one-day liquor licenses for the Byfield Community Arts Center. Excuse me, January 25th and February 14th, 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. For Kathy, is all the paperwork in and up to date? Okay. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, we get business license renewals for 2014. I'll start reading them until I run out. Williamson parking lot.
Joe, just procedurally, so if there's any question about any one of them, we'll just kind of put a hold on it.
Yeah, put a hold on it, that'll be
Okay,
good.
yeah.
Right.
Williamson parking lot, 34 Plum Island Boulevard. Williamson parking lot, 3 Northern Boulevard. Angie Service, Inc., 1 Plum Island Turnpike, Class 2. Applied Automotive Technology, 4 Old Point Road. US 1 Auto Marine, 84 Newbury Turnpike, Class 2. Old Newbury Boat Company, 84 Newburyport Turnpike. Newbury Auto Sales, 60 Newburyport Turnpike, Class 3. A&M Motors, 4 to 6 Newburyport Turnpike, Class 2. Jaden Auto, 6 Newburyport Turnpike, Class 2. Special Interest Auto, 196 Scotland Road, Class 2. Surfland Bait and Tackle, 20 Plum Island Boulevard. Plum Island Beachcomber Restaurant Incorporated, 23 Plum Island Boulevard. Dick's Variety, 29 Plum Island Boulevard. Plum Island Bicycle Rentals, 4 Plum Island Boulevard. Ampet, Inc., 34 High Road. Flukes and Finds, 160 Hay Street. Anastasia's Flowers on the Main, 56 Main Street. BGS Variety, 6D Fruit Street. Bill's Auto Repair, 24 Middle Road. Hightail Acres, 120 High Road. Main Street Mini Mart and D&J Liquors, 53 Main Street. Parker River Dental, 3 Kent Way. The Quilted Acorn, 72 Newburyport Turnpike. Wilco Marine Restorations, 84 Newburyport Turnpike. Henry C. Becker Custom Building Limited, 57 Southern Boulevard. Newbury Butchery, 2 Morgan Avenue. Wheelhouse Parking, 49 Boulevard. Compton Row Incorporated, 96 Newburyport Turnpike. The Sanctuary, B&B, 75 Scotland Road. Mad Martha's Island Cafe, 51 Northern Boulevard. Fernald's Marine, 291 High Road. Colonial Coiffeurs, yeah.
Hairdressers.
Colonial Hairdressers, 89 Hanover Street. Bob Lobster, 49 Plum Island Boulevard. Little River Realty Trust, 17 Newburyport Turnpike. Pearson Hardware, 6A Fruit Street. Sadie's for Hair, 6J Fruit Street. Volpone Towing Services, 86R Newburyport Turnpike. Plum Island Taxpayers Association, 8 Plum Island Boulevard. Karen's Dog Grooming, 49 Northern Boulevard. Dietz and Lynch Capital, 29 Green Street. Josette's As and Loom, 173 High Road. Old Newbury Golf Club, 319 Newburyport Turnpike. Pheasant Meadow Farm, 7 Paul's Way. Tolman Automotive, 24 Middle Road. Parker River Marine Services, 7 Newbury Neck Road. Diamonds from the Rough, 4 Riverview Drive. And J. Gallant Pool and Spa, 96 Newburyport Turnpike.
Motion to approve all.
Second.
Second. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And you recuse yourself, okay. All right, what do we got next? Acceptance or changes for commercial planning, applications and regs continued from the 12/10 meeting. All right, I wasn't here at that meeting, so if someone who was can tell us what we did or didn't do. Kathy?
The documents were given to you to review and decide whether you had any changes to either document, because you gentlemen will be in charge of issuing the commercial planning licenses this year.
Okay,
So, and they go out anytime now. They all have to be in and signed by March 1st, I think.
okay.
So we need a decision. Do you want to make any changes on anything? Or does it look fine as it stands?
All right,
I'm
start it
okay.
with a motion.
Yeah, motion to accept the clamming apps and regs as they are.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, questions? Yeah,
I was just going to say, I think the only question we ever had, with the existing regulations, and these are obviously derived from the existing regulations, had to do with the size and the penalty issue, whether we're going to have the absolute standard or whether there was a little wiggle room in there that if someone was found with one clam that was off by some small amount, whether we should...
Didn't you talk about accepting the state's regulation?
That's what they did,
Yeah.
I know you had a conversation about
I
that.
think we voted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if that somehow was embedded in here. That was sort of the...
I don't know if I saw it, at least I didn't see it when I looked at it. And the other thing that I just had a little issue with when I looked at this, I didn't take and spend tremendous time. I probably should have spent more. But I'm a little confused with just some of the mechanisms when it says, for instance, the selectmen in their judgment from time to time, in order to preserve the industry, are authorized to close the flats. That sounds good, but where are we getting and how will we know, where are we getting our recommendations from? Where will we have our intellect to make those decisions? Where is it coming from? I'm not so sure of the rites of passage of this, I don't quite get it. So,
You
Mr.
always.
We've all, yeah, that's
So
nothing
people
new.
have- so that
Determination,
has-
it must come from the state, I would guess.
okay, but I mean, when we make that, it's done by Charlie or someone coming to us and then we do it?
Yeah.
All right. I was a little caught up on that.
I don't
So-
see anything in here about the short clams.
I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't see anything in here.
And I don't see any reference to any
Probably
state
should add that to
regulations either.
section
So
two.
it's like,
But
it seems like that's the one thing that was sort of the point of controversy, and it's still kind of hanging out there as far as I can tell.
See number 2?
It looks like they took it out.
Clams shall not be taken from the flats under 2 inches in length in shell, and razor clams under 5 inches in length. And I think we should add to that the, what the state reg is, I believe, what's it?
5%.
5%?
Yes,
It's what, 5?
Is it 5 or
5%?
10%?
5.
5?
Okay.
5% or 2%, it's 5%?
So maybe we could just kind of cut and paste that little bit from the state regs into
You know
this
what?
place, and then.
Why don't we take a good look at that and continue this till the next meeting so we get it right?
Yeah, I mean, I know
That
there's
make
some
sense?
urgency, because the guy's got to start
But it
applying.
used to be a 0%.
Yeah, zero tolerance, that
Yeah.
is correct.
All right,
And
so just
Jeffrey
so-
brought forward in
Yep.
Oh, we just-
article to us.
We could just put in that mirrors state law. You know,
Yeah.
if we wanted to go through that.
The other thing,
But it would certainly be simpler if we could actually put, if we're going to have a percentage leeway in there,
yeah,
to just write it right in, because
Okay, so it's
people aren't going to
5%.
want to have to
All
go
right.
through and research, all the state stuff.
so you mentioned how you want to word it.
I make a motion that we put in that the tolerance be 5%. In other
So
words,
there's an amendment to the motion being made right now.
only for section 2, for
Right.
the size, having to do with the sizes of clams. 2 inches in length for soft shell clams, and the razor clams under 5 inches in length. Okay, so in a bucket, they couldn't have more than 5% shots in it.
Okay.
I guess, I'm not very adept with this, but it'd be good if we could just see what the wording of the state.
State, yeah, that's what,
Yeah, because I'm kind of thinking, you don't want to get
all right.
someone,
I tell you what we can do. This here isn't immediate, but the immediate thing is to get the regulations in so people can get their licenses. Why don't we adopt this with the exception of number 2, and next selectmen's meeting, we look at number 2 and we get it right? Okay,
That's
that's
fine
really the
by me.
application form that's the pressing.
that's
thing.
right. So we'll adopt this with the exception of number 2.
Right.
Well, we have the right to amend it at any time, don't we?
Yeah,
So we could adopt 2 as it stands, but then at, say, our next meeting, amend it to put in a percentage or something, however we want to do that.
I like that better.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're not giving up anything in this.
Yeah, we're going to just clarify it. in a
We're gonna
sense.
clarify it next time. That's even better. Make sense?
Yep.
So we're just, so you're gonna withdraw your amendment, your motion
Okay.
for the
I
amendment?
will drop my
Wasn't
amendment.
seconded anyway.
Yeah, okay. And then, we'll just adopt these regulations.
You've got a catch-all already because the state law is in effect.
Yep.
It would affect that anyway.
Yep, so,
Well, no, and I think the problem is that we're allowed to make regulations which are stricter than state law, but not more lenient.
Exactly.
That is correct,
Right?
Yeah.
yes.
And
Okay.
so right now, this is stricter than state
Yeah.
regulations, but we can,
So-
as I say, we can fix that in another meeting.
Motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman.
yeah. The motion on the floor is to adopt these regulations.
Correct,
Seconded?
yes.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good, okay. And we'll do our homework for next time and get the wording from the state reg. Okay. One-day liquor license. For protection number 2 for the bonfire, which was postponed to January 25th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? We all know, for everyone's information out there, the bonfire was postponed due to weather and all kinds of issues over there, but mostly the weather. All right, motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. 7 one-day liquor license for protection number 2 for events February 8th, March 15th, 22nd, 28th, April 19th, May 17th, and 31st, and they're all from 7 to 11 p.m. Everything's all set? Okay. Motion?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have the minutes of the December 10th meeting. People, those are the ones you sent through, Kathy? Okay, people had a chance to look at them?
Motion to accept as read.
I'll second it.
Second it? Any questions or corrections?
I'll abstain since I wasn't.
Yeah, me too. Dave and I weren't here, so the vote's gonna go in, the rest of you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we have communications here. We have a letter,
Before you do that,
Oh.
could I just make
yep,
a quick announcement?
Hi, Martha Taylor, Town Planner, and I just wanted to update you on one aspect of the zoning that the Planning Board is looking to make for the Springtown meeting, and which is to develop a medical marijuana bylaw, which is a follow-up to the moratorium that was passed at the Fall Town meeting. And the Planning Board is holding a workshop on Saturday, January 25th at 10 o'clock for any residents who are interested in the subject. The Planning Board will be presenting what we've learned so far. We have a subcommittee which is composed of me and George Morris and John Weiss. And we'd like to present what we've learned so far and also to solicit any questions or concerns that residents may have on the subject. We actually went up to Portland, Maine today to view a registered marijuana dispensary up there, and so we're doing as much research as we can in different directions. So again, that's Saturday 25th here at Town Hall at 10 o'clock.
got a letter here from the Division of Marine Fisheries. And the subject is the Lock and Mill Dam. The Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries seeks to continue discussions with the town of Newbury as dam owner of the Lock and Road Dam on the topic of improving passage for migratory diatomaceous sea-run fish at this location. Our staff met with the Board of Selectmen January 2013 to summarize our present activities to improve fish passage and populations in the Parker River and to encourage planning on improvements of the Lock and Road Dam. At the January meeting, we expressed our preference to pursue dam removal at the Lock and Road Dam. This position follows our review of the feasibility study conducted in 2010 by Gomez and Sullivan for the town of Newbury that demonstrated favorable physical and economic conditions for dam removal. From our last discussion, it was apparent that consensus had not been reached in the town of Newbury for dam removal at the Lock and Road Dam, and that technical questions still remain. Since that meeting, I'm pleased to report on a highly successful year of progress in the Parker River. Marine Fisheries completed fishway repairs at the Central Street Culvert Weirs, Main Street Dam, and River Street Dam, installed a high-accuracy counting device at the Woolen Mill Dam, and finished a 2-year habitat assessment in the Pentucket Pond. These projects followed fishway repairs at the Woolen Mill Dam and the Snuff Mill Dam in 2012. The next site in the Parker River system that requires attention is the Lock and Road Dam and Fishway. The degraded status of the Lock and Road Dam and surrounding watershed conditions lead us to prefer dam removal as the best long-term solution for fish passage at this location. However, the existing fish ladder has deteriorated to the degree that repairs should be considered if the town of Newbury does not want to pursue dam removal, and outstanding questions about the function of the impoundment and dam remain unresolved. We've made significant passage improvements at 4 of the 6 dams on the river. As the second dam from the tide and the most degraded, improvements at Lock and Mill Dam are essential to maintain the fish runs. Dam owners in Massachusetts are obligated to maintain fish passage under Mass General Law 130, paragraph 19. Marine Fisheries is responsible to work with dam owners to find practical solutions for fish passage and maintenance and improvements. We believe that cooperative action is needed at Lock and Mill Dam in the near future. Please contact Ben Graham at your convenience to discuss this topic or arrange a meeting with our staff. Sincerely, Paul Diodati. Okay, I guess what this is a discussion, what would we like to do?
Tracy has suggested that we invite Mr. Hagan to a meeting to have this discussion.
People think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Say that again, I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
Inviting Mr. Gahagan to come and meet with us.
Okay. Also should have Byfield Water involved in that, ask them to come here with us because they had some serious issues with tearing that dam down.
Okay.
So I think their input would be invaluable in this meeting.
Okay, so we invite, you can invite them both, Kathy? Okay, well, I think the thing to do is call the state first and find out when their schedule is good and work from there.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make the comment, I think we need to take this pretty seriously. It's obvious that they're starting to up the pressure a bit, and the do-nothing option is not an option, under the law, so.
They are part of the DEP. Our
Actually, they're
friends.
not.
What?
Marine Fisheries is not part of the DEP.
Oh, no, excuse me,
Fish and
Executive
Wildlife.
Office.
Yeah,
Executive Office,
Executive Office.
same color. All right, we have an American Diabetes Association Tour de Cure, and they're organizing their 2014 routes. On Sunday, May 18th, the American Diabetes Association is hosting North Shore Tour de Cure, our annual one-day non-competitive cycling event, and it's got 4 routes, and they're gonna be stopping in Newbury. Whereabouts is it? They expect to have 1,000 riders,
Wow.
and I'm trying to get through without reading the whole thing. And what they want is permission from us to pass, essentially. And usually, they ask us permission the day of it to have like a rest stop on the green. And
They're
that's-
gonna be completing the routes by January, at which point,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
we don't know exactly, but what they want is make sure that we're on, want to do it with them, so. I see no problem. We've done it for years, so.
So this is informational, not
Right.
ready
Well,
for motion?
what they want to do is make sure that we are not are in support of them, so they can plan the routes.
Not by me.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just say that it's a sense of the board that, we view this favorably, but we'd like to see the route, and
Yeah.
then we can have the formal vote when we have the route.
oh, I think they should come, but with a
Yeah.
good reminder. All right. River Valley Charter School, overview report card 2013. As mandated by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, enclosed, please find the overview report card for River Valley Charter School, a local public school that draws students from your district. The Federal Elementary and Secondary Education Act requires districts to annually prepare and distribute school report cards to the parents, guardians of all enrolled children. And this is the report card. If anyone wants to look at it, go to Kathy's office and she'll show you. There's a lot of data here, and it'd be pretty hard to communicate out there.
Certainly
So,
would.
actually, can we put it on the website?
I think there's,
Sure.
Yeah,
For a link to it.
you gotta
They
link
they
to-
have a website
Yeah.
with a report
Yeah.
card, so we just have to link to it.
Yeah.
Do you have warrants?
Mm-hmm.
so we've got that.
That was
We have
quick.
some warrants to sign, but before meeting updates from the selectmen, I have not so much meeting updates as informational updates. At the meeting we had on the erosion last week, There was some teleconferences taken, meetings with our state representatives, Representative Mira, Senator Tar, on the Plum Island situation with erosion, and we do not have an answer back from the state, all right? I think that the people, my personal feeling is if we want to get anything, we have to, like, put a little bit of pressure on the people that are calling the shots in Boston. It's not their homes that are in jeopardy. It's a lot of you people's and it's our people in our communities' homes that are in jeopardy. And again, Senator Tar's been working on it. He came up here Saturday night. We rode around Plum Island, looked at the situation down there. And it's not going to get better unless, you know, we have to do something to protect the homes down there. So I apologize because that's all I have. You know, it'd be real nice if someone would say, let people protect their property. And I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas?
Do we have to do anything with this?
What?
Do we have to do anything with that?
Yes, we have to do that too. Okay.
May we speak?
Sure, yeah, that's what I asked for.
Great. My name is Patty Schuler. I live at 6 Independence Way. I find that unacceptable. We were here on Thursday evening.
Well, I'll tell you what,
No,
okay?
no.
No, we
May I?
work hard at the town
I'm
of
not
Newbury.
criticizing
Okay.
you. I'm not criticizing this board. Let me just, please. It's unacceptable. We had Mr. Mira here at that meeting. We were asked to please wait, be patient. There was going to be a meeting on Friday. We had people in jeopardy. It's now Tuesday, and no one can make phone calls. No one is getting back. Bruce Tar has no response from any. We're not looking for, yeah, go ahead and do it. We know they're never. DEP is never going to allow that. We all know that.
My
But-
frustration is more than all of you people in this room.
Okay.
Okay? I've
That's-
spent
and
tens
Joe,
and tens of
you
hours.
work very hard. We know
Okay.
that.
All right.
And Jeff, all of you work
Yeah.
very hard. But all I'm telling you, we're taxpayers. You are our body, our representatives. It's unacceptable. Then we need to push further. When is the governor going to step in? Now, today.
Have you called him?
I have written him an email.
Okay.
And I have written Bruce Tar an email. Now, let me just tell you a couple things, okay? And it doesn't take doing a lot of research. Picture in the paper. Assessing the damage with their home hanging over the hill. You know what they put underneath that? Plum Island, sorry, I'm having trouble with the, Plum Island fared relatively well in the snowstorm, with no power outages and no houses lost to the sea. I find that almost insulting. Losing a house to the sea is equated with the power going out. That is what I am so disturbed about. And we need to get angry here. Not just the people in this room, the entire community. We are a community. We are not just a bunch of homeowners out there on Plum Island. Now, let me continue. I have a few more things to say.
I'm sure you do.
And I'm going to get them in.
I'll tell you what, I've put enough time in it. Okay, believe me.
Okay.
Okay, phone calls, they start at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
All right?
I know,
And
but
it doesn't
it's
get over
not-
until I
it's
go
not-
to bed.
That's not working, and it's not you personally, your responsibility. It is collectively this community's responsibility to not let another house fall into the sea. And I am just so tired of, I'm going to make a phone call, let's run up and down on four-wheelers on the beach. The only time we get anybody's attention is when there's a crisis. We need to, as a community, as this board, and however we do it, to get together and decide what we're going to do. I mean, you know, Bob Watt, he writes this letter to the editor, and he makes a lot of good points. But the one point he made, and it's very clear, and we all know it, let's recognize it, particularly DEP, which considers threatened properties constructed on a barrier beach acceptable losses.
They do.
Well,
That's a true statement.
well, then we cannot let that continue. We need to change the climate, the culture, and it's going to take time. We can't come running in here every time there's a house ready to go over the edge. We need to gather together and decide what we're going to do about it. We have, let's see, 2 meetings tomorrow. The Great Marsh Revitalization Task Force. Another meeting tomorrow on Plum Island. The Merrimack River Beach Alliance. Okay? Who is our task force? Where is the Plum Island Task Force? Where is the Plum Island Alliance? Not homeowners who gather their own funds together to hire people to help and protect them in emergency situations. We need an alliance. We need a task force made up of this community, planners, selectmen, town administrators, whoever it's going to take to get somebody's attention at that State House. Now, we talked about a stick in the eye last week. Oh, don't rattle them. I'll tell you what's a stick in the eye is today. Patrick administration awards $13.5 million in dam and seawall grants. 50% of it's going to dams, and we talked about the fish ladders, and that's so important. We need to take care of that. But this is only the first round of awards. How do we get on that list? We sat here Thursday. There's no money. There is money. How do we get it?
First of all, you have to change the regulations, okay?
It's not impossible.
They're not going to give us money to do something that's
Okay,
against
it's not
their regulation.
impossible to change regulations. We just can't say it's impossible. And here's who's getting money. No, I'm not talking about any of the dam projects. There are 4 communities getting money. Hull is getting $2.7 million. These funds support the reconstruction of over 2,500 feet of seawall, critical to the protection of Hull Village, Pemberton Point, and the community's wastewater treatment plant. Marshfield, $500,000. The seawall is the last line of defense against a coastal storm surge and a key evacuation route during emergencies. Oak Bluffs, an island, Martha's Vineyard, $3.6 million. Rockport's getting $14,000. All of this money is earmarked to communities who have water and sewer infrastructure in jeopardy, which we have. So we cannot lay down. We cannot come in here and have our Board of Selectmen say, oh, nobody called us back. That's all I can tell you, folks.
Listen, I take great,
And
I tell
you're
you,
taking it
what you're
personally,
saying
Joe.
is so
Please.
wrong.
Please,
Okay, so
please
wrong.
don't take it
This Board
personally.
of Selectmen, Jeff has spent several hours today and yesterday with me.
Did anyone
okay?
say, Bruce Tower, you better be at the meeting, because guess what? The homeowners are there and they're livid. We want help. You know,
better-
I sent
you
him
have to
a
have the
note today
DEP
and I said,
change
be
their
at this meeting.
regulations.
It's possible.
Okay, then that's
It's
what we
possible.
need to do.
It's possible, but we can, one homeowner at a time. You know, if we.
You know it's not fair? You know it's not fair? Okay, why should every time this happens, the DEP sets it up so every homeowner that wants to do something has to go begging?
It's
A
pathetic.
person should not have to beg
Unacceptable.
to the DEP to protect their
Unacceptable.
property.
And we ought to be we're all preaching to the choir here, because every one of us here have a personal stake. This community has a huge stake. Already you're giving abatements out at Plum Island. That is just the very beginning. That's the tip of people coming in looking for tax abatements when their property values. And so if anyone who lives off island in the town of Newbury thinks they're going to escape getting hit with some of this tax burden, they're very, very wrong. You're sitting here, you can't even afford to buy a fire truck. We understand that. But, you know, these are all priorities that a community has to deal with. And everybody's got to get on board and that's my
You know
piece.
something? We were on board before you moved to town.
That's good.
Okay,
I've
and
owned
that's the
property
proof.
here for 8 years, so I
Yeah.
might have just
We
built
were
a
on
new home,
board
but
like
I've been here
yeah,
8 years.
This started back in the 1970s.
Right, and think if these people were
Joe,
out to do
Joe,
something.
could I just make a little suggestion? Yeah, I just want to make a suggestion. Wait a sec.
I'm
Hold
tired
it,
of
hold it,
getting-
hold it.
No.
You guys, wait.
I'm sorry, as a selectman, I think I have precedence, but I think we're probably going to say the
Okay,
same
go
thing. And that is that, we have a very immediate problem. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place, or the sand and the rocks, depending on how you look at it, due to the existing DEP regulations. This is a political problem. A change is going to have to start at least at the Secretary of Environmental and Energy. I forget the exact title, if not the governor.
Environmental affairs.
Affairs. Laws are very hard to change. Regulations are easier, but the process still takes time. And I think, having studied these regulations a lot myself, there's a real hole. The regulations as they stand are great for protecting pristine barrier beaches. They don't even address the issue of what do we do with a built-up community like Plum Island. And yet if you go to the enabling legislation that ultimately led to the creation of the DEP as we know it today, there's all kinds of things. Protecting water supplies, it's all motherhood and apple pie. So a lot of the right stuff is there at the law level, and the problem we have is the regulation level. The problem, of course, now is that we're trying to get through this winter. And so I think, the homeowners don't email, write letters, or make phone calls. I mean, I know as an elected official that each of these things has a different sort of priority, because it's very easy to create an email campaign. It gets harder to get people to write letters, but I think we have enough folks on the island who really care very deeply about this problem. Writing letters to both the governor and the Secretary of Environmental Affairs and Energy. Again, I keep forgetting the details of the title, but I think in order to deal with the acute problem, namely what happens over the next couple of months, it seems to me that we need that level of political pressure. We're one town amongst many, some of which just got some nice chunks of cash from the state, who are dealing with these kinds of problems. And we've got to get Newbury a little higher on the radar screen than some of these other communities like Situate. And I think the only way to do it, as I say, is letters, not email, and phone calls to the Secretary and to the governor if we want to get Newbury and Plum Island in particular pushed up higher on the list. And so I'd like to make a concrete suggestion, and that is that we do think about sort of a little longer range planning, and that we create some sort of working group within town government, including conservation planning and Board of Selectmen and emergency management, to sort of look at what we can do in terms of our own activities, perhaps new bylaws or whatever, to address sort of the next few years. The way I always look at these problems as an engineer is that we have to define the problem that we want to solve. And you could say, well, the problem is, how do we protect all of Plum Island for eternity? Okay, we don't know what eternity holds, so we're not going to go there. The other end of the spectrum is, how do we protect 30 or so properties this winter? And I think, working at the state level, putting pressure on, that's the sort of short end. And I'd like to look about 5-10 years. What can we do to get ready for next year and the year after and the year after, as opposed to, as many of you have expressed concerns last week, that it seems like we're rushing from one crisis to another. So I'd like to make that concrete.
Okay, I want to add something to that, too.
Sure.
You talk about calling them up and they're going to do anything. They just play games, okay? They just play games. I'll give you an example, okay? It used to be any correspondence to do with Plum Island bypassed DEP and went to the Undersecretary of the Department of Energy and Environmental Affairs, all right? Guess what? They just replaced that person. There's a new person in charge, and her response today was, I need time to get up to speed on this. Yeah, that's what we deal with.
Well,
Mark.
I got a point for you.
yep, I'm not going.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'll arm wrestle you. Mark Greenberg, 33 Southern. I have the privilege of being next to one of the red tagged houses as of yesterday. That will be the next one where the cameras can sit on my deck and watch the house fall in the ocean. Because it seems.
Phone call from Governor Patrick saying you can put more rocks in.
Yes, exactly. Because that's how it happened last year. It took a few houses going in, it took the newscasts coming out to do it. And, you know, I understand the frustration of my colleague, and she's right in a lot of things she's saying. I understand your frustration completely because they don't care. So we need to decide what we want to do. If I go out there and try to move rocks, the guy I hire will be probably told he can never work in the state again. What is the opportunity for the town to declare an emergency, which obviously exists because we are going to lose our infrastructure. We are going to lose more houses. We did prove last year that my house is still fine because I put rocks in. My neighbor's house is falling in the ocean because she didn't. That the rocks serve some benefit. They might not go through eternity, but by the time Plum Island is gone, so will most of Boston be gone, and I'll move to the West Coast then, which might be in Oklahoma. So my question is really, how do we think together of what we want to do? The only way we get attention is either a house falls in the ocean or the police take us and news people are there to stop us. The town should appropriate money, along with us putting money in a fund as one group to repair the damage to our wall, similar to what they have just allocated the money from the state to Hull to fix their wall, and let us get a couple of machines out there and start to move rocks and bring it in as we feel is required by the town and the people. You can call it a committee, you can call it what, and when we're stopped, we'll have all the newscasters out there explaining that the governor is not helping us again. They gave money to Hull, but they're letting us have our houses fall in the ocean so they can have better news stories. I know of no other suggestion other than doing something as a group versus individuals, having it backed by the town, and if at the end they find the town, the same way they're making me take out my rocks, like there's a chance, and the same way they said the rocks we put in didn't work, which is because they didn't look at it. We're not going to win by smarts. We'll probably win, as you said a few minutes ago, after 4 more houses fall in the ocean. I don't want to win then because I don't want mine to be one of them, and I don't want one of my neighbors to be one of those. So we're either going to do something that's not going to make people happy this week, or we're going to wait a month where we've lost more and then make them not happy that week. And I think as a group, we need your leadership. And I am also very disappointed that the congressman's not here. I know he does many other things, and it is painful to hear that we're worried about how many fish can jump over the dam the same night we're talking about houses, but that's just politics. So we appreciate what you're saying. There are many people in this room who are willing to put in dollars to a fund. We'd like some amount from the town, so it's a group doing it, and let's get a couple of things out there to protect the town's infrastructure and save Newbury. And it should just be a project to save Newbury. I think it's wonderful that we said save Bennett Hill. It's historic, it's great, but it's Bennett Hill and it's all the houses that are at risk on the South Shore. Everyone's house at risk is as important as anyone else's house. And these people won't be happy until we have helicopters flying over, watching houses drop into the ocean again. So that's my suggestion. I leave it to you unless my colleague here wants to.
Cheryl Camo Jones, Fordham Way, Plum Island, not far from you. Just wanted to point out that the coastal retreat isn't just a state of Massachusetts DEP policy. It's a national policy. It comes down from NOAA. If you look up NOAA under coastal retreat, you will find their complete policy written out where they suggest states allow the ocean to take over coastal property. This is coming down from the top. This isn't just our state. It's nationwide, okay? So don't think that this is just Massachusetts. We're fighting the entire country on this issue. Now, when houses were dropping in the ocean last year, I called up the governor's office, and I said, listen, I'm one of those homeowners that the house is about to fall in the water. Me and my neighbors are going to get together,
and we're gonna put some rocks out there, whether you like it or not. So be prepared to arrest about 40 to 50 senior citizens for saving their homes. So what it came down to was civil disobedience. So he decided to say, okay, do what you need to do to save your homes. So we didn't all get arrested for doing it.
One question for you. Did he rescind that order that we were told we could do what we needed to save our homes?
That was a question asked at the last meeting, and we don't know.
Well,
let's
what
assume it
happened,
wasn't.
the thing that brought it to an end was we hit plover season,
Yep.
Right.
Oh, thank
and
God.
a federal date kicked in, Mark. That's,
Okay, but it wasn't rescinded, we respected the birds.
Right.
Right.
So let's start doing the emergency.
Right.
Make the statement, declare the emergency, and then we're continuing our emergency saving.
but the,
I'll visit you in jail, don't worry.
the problem is the declaration of emergency doesn't do anything for it. Okay, the reason it took place was because the governor called DEP and said, listen, I don't want any more houses going in the ocean. Okay, and that's the pressure that Cheryl's talking about.
But he hasn't changed his mind.
Well, this is the pressure we need to apply. We have to band together and tell them we are going to fix our seawall, we're going to fix our rocks, we're going to close the gaps, we're going to do what we need to do to save our homes, whether you like it or not. So here it comes. You better have the DEP step aside and get everybody off the island, because we're going to go ahead. And that's how I approached it when I called the governor's office. They had me on hold for half an hour and then talked to me again, and then had me on hold for another half an hour. So believe me, he was getting the message that we were ready to go out there and start saving our homes, and you can arrest a bunch of senior citizens if you like.
I think the key that I'm saying is we need to go forward with a statement of we're continuing under what we've been told we can, because we've never been told we can't continue to do that. Let them come out and say, we've changed our minds, you can no longer save houses that are in danger. Let them make that statement. Let us say we're prepared to continue what you authorized last year, and we're out there, and the town has funded the money to do it right, because we need to repair and save not only the homes, but the infrastructure, and it's being done in one pot to fix it. Then let them come out and say, no, it stopped. Let the governor, he doesn't have the balls to do that.
It may come down to this.
Oh,
Need an
You
action.
gotta know it, Joe. It
what?
might come down to this.
I agree with it.
Okay.
As
I
an
know you do.
individual, I agree with it, you know? And you talk about calling the governor's office. In the middle of the storm, I called the governor's office right here when there were a bunch of people that evacuated from Plum Island. Okay, I talked to an aide in the governor's office. And you know what I was told? I said, this house is washing in the ocean, you gotta do something. And you know what they told me?
He's busy.
That's an issue between the homeowner and their insurance company.
Yeah.
Honest to God.
That's somebody who doesn't know any better at the
Why-
other end of the
That's
phone.
why I'm going off, okay?
Yeah,
I've dealt with this many times.
I'd like to
That's what I
actually,
think.
I'd like to make a concrete
Rocks in the
proposal, a
island.
motion.
Ready to do it, open the bridge, don't let anybody over the bridge,
Before-
and put the rocks down.
Before,
I mean, this is what we need to do. You know,
Yeah.
open that bridge, make
Jeff's
sure the water
Jeff's got some insight here.
David wants to make a concrete proposal, but before he does that, you know, it is the coastal community that I see before you. And I think one of the things that's gonna become very evident as we go forward on Plum Island, there was an order, a consent order, and people had to put water and sewer into Plum Island. And the coastal community right now is definitely the people that are feeling the brunt of the Atlantic Ocean. But it might not take long before, because you were ordered to sewer and water Plum Island, that living on Plum Island could become very hard, because the sewer and water could become compromised. So, right now, and I'm not putting a stick in DEP's eye, but right now, they seem to hold the cards, at least for us as town leaders, not only for you folks as private homeowners protecting your house, but it is infrastructure that becomes the concern. And when does that infrastructure become a concern of the town? When it's dangling broken under the street? I don't know. Those are the issues we're trying to deal with. But when I see this many people here, and I know the faces, and Patty, you're not wrong, David's probably gonna make a concrete proposal. I'm part of that Great Marsh Task Force. It has merit. But I
I'm not
think,
saying
but I
that's-
think,
I'm
I
not
think,
insulting.
I think it becomes a little bit bigger issue too. Even on Plum Island, if there's 350 homes in the quadrant of that sewer that's behind Annapolis Way, they're not off the hook. So all the people on Plum Island should be united on this issue. And it should be united on this issue, not just with the town of Newbury, because Newburyport owns the water and sewer infrastructure. So as we go forward, I think you need to build your political base on Plum Island, because we haven't seen the last of just private home, but we haven't seen the last of water and sewer infrastructure and need to protect it. Joe's gone into Boston, he's probably been the most vocal. He probably single-handedly got some of the communication going, as with others in town. So maybe the next step is, and I'm gonna let David make his proposal, as he makes his proposal, some of the linkage we have with Newburyport is very important, and I think the linkage with the rest of your people on Plum Island that are on water and sewer together is very important too, because the more people you have, the better off you are.
Okay, where I'm coming from is, and I was unable to attend the meeting last week, but thanks to our cable TV system, I was able to watch all but the last few minutes of the meeting before I had to hop in the car and drive over here. And we're going over the same issues, but from my recollection of the meeting last week, there seemed to be kind of a consensus that we should do this declaration of emergency, but I don't think it was formally done. And I know we were provided with a document this evening that is a very formal document and includes all kinds of good things, requesting the governor and so forth to get their act together and, do what we can at the local level to, deal with the acute situation. So if my understanding is correct, something we can do tonight is to essentially approve this specific document.
Actually, we did approve it last time, but, okay,
But it wasn't actually written out at that time, right?
yeah, it was written out, but what had happened is,
Need to change.
town council wanted us to add a statement in at the beginning, okay? And that's what Mike
Okay.
had talked about, we gotta do.
So it's an amendment to the.
It's an
essentially-
amendment to the
Right,
thing, okay?
So-
And what it is, town council would like to lead this off. I move that the Board of Selectmen declare a state of emergency in the town of Newbury due to the storm and resulting coastal erosion, which resulted from the nor'easter on January 2nd and 3rd, 2014, and that said erosion poses an immediate threat to the health and safety of persons and/or property in the town of Newbury. Town council would like that at the beginning, and it doesn't, we haven't changed anything else on it, so. Anyway, Mike, you were gonna make a motion on that,
I'll
right?
make a motion that we adopt town council's recommendation into the original, motion.
Second.
Okay. Does that,
Yeah.
that makes, Jeff, you?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, so that's the adoption of that declaration of emergency.
And
Now-
that wording I thought was very helpful.
Richie, could you go to the microphone just so that people at home can hear you?
I'm just trying to put this all into perspective, and since we put the rocks in last spring or last winter, a lot of time has been spent trying to be civil and politically correct to try to get the job finished down there. And I don't think much concrete progress has been made.
I agree.
So I think we are one or two major winter storms away from having at least one or two more homes in the ocean, correct? Plus, the one lot that is chewed in 50 to 100 feet that is now 10 or 20 feet away from the $30 million water and sewer system will also be hanging in the breeze.
Possibility. Strong.
Well, if we lost 50 feet in one storm,
Yep,
and there's only 30 feet left to go,
yep, strong possibility.
the math is in our favor that, or not in our favor, that we're gonna, you know, in one or two more storms, we're gonna, you know, be living what we've been talking about for 2 or 3 years. So there's a lot of urgency building up here, and that's why we're all here right now, as you know. And the best and only concrete action we've gotten in a lot of years, notwithstanding the sand dredging, which was pretty awesome, was as a result of TV camera crews videoing houses falling into the water. And I think we struck a chord with somebody somewhere, and that's what allowed somebody else to give us a nod to go in there and install these rocks. We didn't get it in writing. We did it basically, we felt like we were a mouse stealing cheese off of a table. We were running rocks in and out of there as fast as we could, expecting to get shut down any minute and be told that we'd have to take them out. So if there's any gaps or there's any lack of perfection in that rock wall, it's because we did it under some pretty unbelievable circumstances, and it happened in a moment's notice, and in 2 weeks we had more rocks in the sand on the beach than any other place in the world. I don't care where you go. I think, due to all these facts and the fact that we shouldn't wait till another house is actually going in the water, I believe we should hire a specialty law firm that specializes in constitutional, not constitutional law, but laws related to what we as human beings are allowed to do to protect our properties, and specialists in those that are able to, I believe it is in DEP's own charter, that their mission is to protect this, that, and every other thing, and people's properties, in those words. So we have the United States Constitution that says that people have the right to protect their homes. DEP's Constitution, if that's what it's called, requires them to protect homes and private properties. I think a well positioned legal team versed in these type of laws, and they are out there, we should hire them, all of us, with the city of Newburyport, to send a letter to the governor telling them that by such and such a date, if we haven't heard from them, that we're going to proceed with the installation of rocks, and if they stop us, we're going to sue them for $1 gazillion. And I think that it would be a slam dunk win, and short of waiting for them to watch houses fall in, that's the only thing I can think of to get their attention, because they've been doing what they've been doing best for the last 20 years, which is just making you chase them. You just chase them here, and then chase them there, and chase them here, and they're just sitting there laughing at you. So that's my 2 cents. I think we need to hire a law firm, give them their 10 or 20 grand, have them write a couple of letters, and you will see some people start to get serious quick. Because what they're doing is, at best, illegal, and at worst, on purpose, playing games with us. So.
We know one of the law firms. Just to repeat one thing, we have to decide whether we want to ask permission or say that we've got permission and act based upon the permission we believe we have. Asking permission implies that we wait to get an answer, don't get an answer, and then do something. Assuming that we have permission based upon what has been said to us, the risk that we're at, not only the homes but the infrastructure, is where we should be going. And we should definitely, I'm waiting for Bob to come up so we can talk about Pacific Legal Foundation, but we have counsel that could help us and would be probably the right group to take this on, that should be standing behind as we're doing it, ready to stop and fight in any way, with notes that if you try to stop the people who are doing what you have told them they can do, we will file such and such a briefs and make it more embarrassing. But it's got to be the town and the people, assuming we can do what we can do, and legal support helping us.
Dave, you got something?
David Williamson, 1 Southern Boulevard. I'm looking at some different Globe articles about what other different towns in the state have done in terms of support for their coastal homes and seawalls. This is an article, it's back in 2011, but it talks about in Marblehead, town budgeted around $300,000 for seawall repairs and is finishing up a $47,000 project to add boulders in front of the causeway to protect the new seawall. In Winthrop, town manager James McKenna said the town plans to spend $500,000 soon to repair parts of the beach, which does not have a seawall. In Marshfield, Tom Reynolds, superintendent of the Department of Public Works, said the figure he voted Monday includes $50,000 for design of a 2,600 foot of seawall along Foster Avenue and $500,000 for replacement of a revetment, rocks placed along the shore at Hewitt's Point. This is in the Globe. In Situate, town officials appropriate approximately $200,000 annually for shoreline protection. A group of residents organized a petition that would allocate an additional $300,000 for seawall fixes for this year. We're talking about having a fund available from now on of $500,000. $300,000 from the citizens article, a request from the Seawall Committee, plus $200,000. We feel that $500,000 is a fairly conservative amount of money given the scope of the problem. So there are some towns doing some significant work to support the residents and support building and fortifying their seawalls and protect private property and beaches. It sounds like the governor is on board too with an article today. Governor Deval Patrick took the wraps off a $50 million plan Tuesday that says it will prepare Massachusetts for challenges posed by climate change on public health, energy, transportation, and basic infrastructure. There's $40 million grant program by the Department of Energy. That's to shore up protection around energy services. Another $10 million will be up front on Patrick called critical coastal infrastructure and dam repair. This includes $1 million in municipal grants to reduce or eliminate risk associated with coastal storms and sea level rise, and another $1 million for green infrastructure projects like beach and dune enhancement and salt marsh retention. Sounds like we fit in part of that. So,
Well, how can you say we don't and stop us and then do that?
let me finish, please. So, we have some towns doing a whole lot. We sat for 2 hours last week just trying to get an emergency declaration. I know you're on board with us, but we need to do more.
Okay, what?
So, put $24,000 that we talked about last week on an emergency fund. Send it to the Finance Committee, and let's have that money here. I don't care if we don't have permission yet. Let's get the money allocated so when we do have permission, we can go. That's showing some modest but significant support that's beyond words. That's what we're asking for.
Okay.
On top of what he's asking for, let's make our words significant to say DEP enough.
David, well said. And I don't think we're being quiet up here because it's anything we haven't heard before. I'm still way back with the complication, which I'm sure sounds easy to everyone else. How do we take taxpayers' money and allocate it to personal property without going to town meeting, especially when you start to get numbers like you could be talking about if things started to go poorly in a big way quickly? town meeting stood behind Plum Island when it came to voting for water and sewer, I suppose, but I'm not so sure.
I don't know how.
I know. But I am not so sure that our town, at a town meeting, if I called a special town meeting tomorrow and asked for their financial support on Plum Island, I'm not so sure we're gonna get it.
Don't make it for public property, make it for protecting a water sewer project.
I don't know if we'd have to, we've been charged with looking at it a little different. We don't own the water and sewer property, but we certainly own the road.
Yeah, and if you don't protect your road, which is what you're protecting, Newburyport is not gonna do spend a dime, until they're asked to repair something that's damaged. They own that, but they don't own protecting it, certainly not in
And
Newbury.
to be honest, if the water and sewer is damaged and it's dangling there, we're gonna have to repair the road before they can reconnect the water and sewer, so.
So you'll spend more in doing all that than you will for $24,000 to help support it.
It's a charge well met, and definitely we'll ask we'll start to try to think along that tack, and I'm open to any other suggestions, but we'll research that.
There's no
I don't know where to
researching
go
to
with
do.
it, but we'll research it. I mean, it sounds easy.
What research is needed?
If I had my druthers and I could take 24 grand and go down and fill the hole at the Cinicos to preempt the water being, and the water and sewer being exposed in another storm, I would.
Why can't you? Why can't you, as a committee, do that right now? No one's telling me why you can't.
Let me just sort of follow up, and it's largely a question to Tracy, that there are certain things that towns can and cannot do with money, but there's another set of money, and that's essentially the Betterment Fund, and I don't know quite where that stands, but I know there's some money in there, and so it would seem that if the argument is going to be that we need to protect the water and sewer system, that would be the first place that I would be looking for the money, but perhaps Tracy can correct me in terms of the details of my understanding.
And before Tracy actually.
Jeff, come on, let's just.
But the only reason, David, if you go to the Betterment Fund.
I just want to understand the legal position that we're in,
Yes.
how we're going to deal with that legal position.
Yes, I have gotten an opinion from council that we could utilize some of those funds. However, we do not have any legal permission of the property owner to do anything on his property at this point in time. We are working in that direction.
Okay.
Let's make it contingent. I would love you guys to make a statement by your actions tonight that says we vote dollars from that fund, dollars from any fund. Make it contingent on anything you want. Well, not anything you want. Make it contingent, but act. Don't tell us you're going to research it. Don't tell us that. And I don't mean to affront anyone, but we need action.
Okay, so along those lines, who is it that if we were to write a letter saying that, we recommend, we demand, whatever that word will be, that funds, the Betterment funds, some of those funds be used to deal with especially the gap that we have in the...
You can vote to utilize those funds. You need permission of the property owner to do anything.
Right.
And then once you have that permission, you have to work within the confines of the general laws.
Right.
That's the...
So the concrete action that we could take would be to appropriate some amount not exceeding...
You could put sand
And bags.
and core bags.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say to you.
Because the concern I have is sort of twofold. One is how do we get through this winter? How do we get through the next 5 winters? Because, what we're doing right now is emergency stuff. We're doing riprap. If we think we're in this for the long haul and that area is going to be continually challenged, then you really want to start engineering revetments, and now we're talking serious money. If we're lucky, then what happened back in the late 70s will repeat itself. If we can sort of protect things in the short term, the beach will start building back out in that location. No doubt it'll start eroding somewhere else, because we keep seeing this up and down the coast of the island. But it seems to me that, and the question in my mind would be that if we vote to appropriate monies from the Betterment Funds, subject obviously to the approval of the affected homeowner or owners. We should probably put a cap on that too, right? Like we usually do with these
You
kinds of
can't
things.
exceed the amount, we'd have to look at the debt service payments that are due, the available balance in the account, and you couldn't, you could only expend up to the amount that's
Do we know how
still
much
due.
that is?
I don't right now, no, but I can get that.
Yeah,
for
we
you.
could know by our next meeting, right?
I can tell you tomorrow, yeah.
Um,
Let's just word it, not to exceed, how much is available?
I don't think you, well,
I mean, David.
Is this
David,
money that's,
Do you really wanna go back to putting bags in sand on the beach?
no, we just appropriate the money because don't spend it until we get the okay.
I mean, so what are you saying? You're looking for the okay from DEP again?
Yep.
yeah.
So, I mean, David wasn't at the last meeting. He basically just said what we've all said from the last meeting. You know, we're back to solid structure. But
Right.
if the money comes from the abatement or the town, the only issue I have with that, and I don't have any problem with it if we can find a way, where does that put the town in owning what's on there and what can DEP do to us? I don't know. Other than that, I mean, if that's the way people would like to go, but I do believe you're back within the confines of the, when the town does anything, it's within the confines of the law. And we're gonna put sand and we're gonna put bags and we're gonna spend your money.
It's a waste of money.
And
Yes.
you-
Well,
And I don't know how else to tell you. And there'll come a time when maybe
perhaps
sand
not.
is important.
we also got a lawsuit, right?
storm will take the sand away.
We just said about that, we got a lawsuit on the other one.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with it.
I think one thing we should all recognize, in front of Bennett Hill, there was perfectly intact core bags that were installed last winter and fared well. In front of DeSenicos, there were perfectly intact core bags. Again, we had a blizzard. I think that's the reality. We had a significant storm. We're asking for cooperation from our elected officials and certainly from our regulatory friends. But it's really time to demand the cooperation of our friends from DEP or demand their resignations, because their primary function is to protect life, safety, and private property. It's right in there. But I think that's really the model that we have to go on right now. We need to demand the cooperation immediately, and then if we don't get it, then you know what, we need to demand their resignations. And it's really can't be any simpler than that. They're either helping you or they shouldn't have a job. They shouldn't be collecting taxpayers' money and not protecting the taxpayer whom they serve.
There you have it.
Well, if I could make one comment as far as just your thought, your comments about needing permission from the homeowner. We've talked to him. I don't know why he wouldn't say yes if he's protecting the infrastructure in front of his own house that he knows will get cut off on either end and he'll have no water or sewer. So, I think you can assume that that's forthcoming and make it contingent on it. And I hear your points about where, you know, your hands may be tied, but I like the suggestion. You can say, allowable practices. And if we've all put rocks on, why is that not allowable?
I personally think Mark's point on, did the DEP ever come back and say, stop, you can't do it? I think Mark's got a good point on that.
Just let's do it based upon the authorization we received from the governor last year. Make it to do and fix that and protect the infrastructure and expand to houses to protect the wall based upon the authorization the governor gave last year to protect our homes and property.
I think
Then let them say no.
you
The
can
town
say that
would
a
ne-
continuous
The town would never
bower.
say no.
No, I said them,
Yeah,
not you.
You can say that a
You're not
continuous
them.
barrier is needed to protect the water and the water sewer project.
the big reason that DEP doesn't want hard structures is because of the ends. All we want to do is get rid of the ends that we've got out
The
there.
ends are now rock structure. We got two groins.
No, but in between, in front of Bennett Hill, the little piece in front of you and up
Right.
in Syndico's, okay? That's the ends that they always tell you you're gonna have trouble with. Well, let us fix those ends.
That's not an end, that's just a missing
No,
middle.
no,
It's a missing middle.
I'm missing, okay,
I agree.
yeah. No, it's a void, you're right, you're right.
We're repairing the work they authorized, and it's still under authorization.
Yeah.
Let them say no, I took it away. Patrick wouldn't say that.
I like it.
Let's,
I mean, the starting point is, let's Tracy do some research, see what funds are available. I mean, and that's the next step, I think.
But then we have to wait for another meeting.
But David, you know what, this is just the way the bureaucracy of government
No,
works.
but you
I
can
mean,
make the language such. Save $10,000 less than the maximum allowable amount left in the fund.
I don't know what that I don't know what that amount is. I think you better wait until I get the amount.
Is it what?
more than $1 that you have.
Yes.
He wants the town to put money in it, so we can all say the project being done is town and residents' money. The dollar is a good start, 25,000 is a much better start. But we want you in the frying pan with us. We wanna go in saying the town and the people are working together to follow what the governor said to protect. $1 puts you in there. 0 doesn't.
Well, I
I
don't want
gotta-
you
I
in the
gotta go-
frying pan, I just want you on the side, and that makes you.
I don't want to get fried, I'm sorry.
He's not a salesman, obviously, okay?
Oh, he knows I'm visiting.
But the only thing that I go back to, and I'm stuck on it, I'm not sure that the minute we start in on this, unless it's under the dire emergency of the storm, that we could end up owning that project, and you could end up, through us, getting audited to do a lot of things you don't want to do. And I don't know, when I get that answered, and I'm trying, the town, the DEP can come after the town. They're having a lot harder time coming after you. The minute we're in on this, you could see things change
I have
real
a
fast.
solution, I have a great solution.
That's all I'm worried about.
We can build a wall, but without sand behind the wall, it won't work. We need sand. The money will be used for sand.
What's the absolute definition of the betterment fund? Does anyone know?
I have it all defined
I
in the
mean, is the
office.
betterment fund owned by the town, the water and sewer, the people? It's owned by the town, the betterment fund is.
Yes,
My understanding that the
repayment
loan we got from
of the loans.
Huh?
For repayment of the loans.
Yeah.
And legally, it could be used for something that protected that infrastructure, because that's part of what you're paying for? Is that why we're driving it, the betterment fund?
Any balances.
Keep pushing the sand point you're right.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of help people, and I just want to say, you know, to help people understand where I'm coming from, we've got a three-dimensional problem here. We've got an immediate sort of engineering issue. We have, I think, a short-term solution if we can pay for it and if we can deal with a third dimension, which is the legal side. And the problem that we're having as a board of selectmen is not only the financial side, but the legal side. You know, you can talk about what percentage of the assessed value of the town exists on Plum Island, but we also have to think about the fact that we've got on the order of 7,000 people in this town, and actually the percentage on Plum Island gets a lot smaller when you talk about the number of people. And so, as a selectman, you know, I obviously want to support the folks whose properties are in danger, but at the same time, you know, we also have to think about the liability side of it from the town perspective. And, you know, when I hear people suggesting they want the town to jump into the so-called frying pan, you know, that's where the other side of me starts, you know, getting rather concerned. And that's the kind of trade-off that we're dealing with.
Hang on, Mark.
Yeah.
Trust me, please.
Yeah. You haven't fried us yet.
You do not need to be in the frying pan. It's not right for us to ask you to be. If you guys vote for money to place sand on the beach to protect it, we can have our people put sand for all that amount of money on the beach.
Glad you grit sand.
No. They'll put rocks for us very cheaply, and they'll put a lot of sand in there.
Yeah, and unfortunately that won't work. If you read the Wetlands Protection Act, any alteration of dune and placing sand on there would count as that.
We're altering it, we're re-establishing it.
Go and read the regulations, because this is part of the problem, is that, you know, we're operating in a certain legal context, and everybody thinks they know the rules, but most have never read them, much less ask town council to interpret them. And that's, as a Board of Selectmen, that's what we have to do, is that if we're not sure where the legal world is going to come down on us, we go to town council.
What if the dune is on private property?
Again, you know, I'm not a wetlands lawyer, but if you go and read the regs, they don't let you do a whole lot of.
Well, if that's the case, then we should not waste our time with Bennett Hill, because we can go and build a wall of rock tomorrow, but if we can't put sand behind it, from whatever source there be, it's going to come down.
There is actually a existing order of conditions for the 4 priority zones, which allows transporting and putting sand. That was the reason that whole order of conditions.
Right.
Was
I may have a free source of sand, viable sand, if we can transport it. We can move sand. Give the private owners the money and we'll get the sand there. It'll be good sand where it needs to be.
I'll tell you what, I mean, it makes sense. I hate to shock everyone, but it makes sense. So, I think we need to look at how we do it. I think we'd have to do it right by the book if it was even possible. It might set a precedent that some of the monies from the Betterment Fund are gonna be used for purposes like that, and we're gonna have to see what that might do. Because once you do something once, it seems to set a precedent.
You're limited by the amount of money that's in the Betterment Fund.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'd still end up having to get an emergency cert and go through the process and do it right.
The problem is precedents don't count for much if they violate the law.
Yeah, but you didn't hear me. You were gonna get an
But sand does
emergency
not
cert,
violate the law.
emergency certification, and sand doesn't violate.
No, I mean, the problem, of course, we have is that you have an order of conditions, but that doesn't mean that they've met the higher standards of the regs, and so you're always subject to appeal or a superseding order of conditions in these kinds of cases. The good news is nobody's complaining. Yeah. So,
We'd be quiet up back there.
so I think
The
that,
audience can't hear what David's saying.
yeah, but I think we've got a little homework to do. It's not going to solve the problem tonight, but I think between understanding the betterment funding a little better, as well as perhaps getting town council opinion on some of these legal issues, so that if we make a decision, we're going to feel more comfortable both on the financial side and the legal side. And I think, you know, I certainly don't have enough information tonight to really think about the best way
Bob
forward.
just mentioned if we go this Betterment Fund route, it's gotta go to town meeting anyway?
No, it doesn't.
No.
No.
Okay.
we can do an appropriation out of Betterment?
The selectmen can. Yep.
Let's do it.
the
Come on,
thing-
let's do it now. Let's do it. I'll help you with the language. And I don't need to be a lawyer. Make it contingent.
No.
Guys, it's making a statement. Do it tonight.
Why don't we make the request?
I cannot be a responsible selectman and say that we'll rely on armchair lawyers to
Look at what it would take.
determine the town's legal position. You know, it's the world is a little too much more complicated than just sort of.
Make it contingent on town council approval.
I'm sorry, you know, as many of you know, I served quite a few years on the planning board, and part of our job was drafting bylaws and so forth, so I learned some of the ins and outs of this game, and the way you dot those T's and, I'm sorry, cross those T's and dot those I's can make a big difference, and that's why we pay for a town council as well as for a legal firm to support us.
Motion contingent on an editing by town council.
You know what it is, I think, before Richie speaks, I don't have any problem, at least for me, and let's discuss it. I think the process needs to be researched, but researched very quickly. I don't have a problem tonight, I think, because I think that it would be much more prudent to maybe try to provide some extra protection at least where the infrastructure is eminently in threat. I mean, John, I can't help you probably, but the infrastructure is something that, the road.
Why do we need to use the word imminent? We're here because it's imminent, but why use that word imminent?
Sounds good, I like it.
You can use it, don't say where it's imminent, say there's imminent danger to the infrastructure. And we all know that one continuous wall is what's gonna really protect the water sewer project.
What I'm gonna find out tomorrow from Doug, because Doug actually knows the regulation, I've always been told that sand and core bags are reliable to be used under DEP recommendations. I think we'll find out tomorrow as quickly as we can what we need to try to go forward with thinking and then researching just a little if it's gonna be of use. Now, if anyone else in the board has something that they'd like to do beyond that, I mean, let's do it now. I mean, do we need to firm it up in any way? Because I don't know if what we're talking about is possible.
That's exactly right. We don't have town council here, we don't have the Concom agent here, and there are many, many things we need to research before we go making any motion at all for money.
And we don't have the engineering.
We don't necessarily need engineering.
I mean,
Richie's got something.
I seriously understand your plight, I really do, but I am not gonna go jumping headlong into something without researching it, I'm sorry. It's just not gonna happen. I mean, I'm only speaking for myself, okay?
That's fine, you all get a
But,
vote.
I mean, I can't speak for the other selectmen, I'm only one vote. But I want this thoroughly researched before I vote on it.
Well, that's what we're talking about, Chuck. We're talking about just getting more information very quickly and see where we stand. Because it's a little new to us tonight about talking about obeying the law. A little new to us.
Thank you, Jeff.
Would you hold an emergency selectmen's meeting if you found out information that would move this along?
Actually, I was thinking of that.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking of is scheduling one,
There,
okay,
do that.
next week, instead of waiting for the 2 weeks,
Yep.
okay?
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be up to us to get the information we need before that meeting takes place.
Thank you, Alice.
So if you
Tip of my
announce it
tongue.
tomorrow, when would the meeting be?
Tuesday.
We could do it Monday or Tuesday. We do it Tuesday because if there's anything going on,
Tuesday's
town hall,
Concom night.
what?
Tuesday's Concom night.
Tuesday's Concom night?
We could go to the Concom meeting.
You guys have a joint meeting?
You can always find another home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you probably want Doug
I
there.
I like it not on
Yeah,
Monday,
Well,
because Mondays is a cleanup for what went on over the weekend. Okay, if we did it Monday, we might not be able to have the information.
Isn't Monday a holiday?
Mondays a
Holiday.
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 Is it the following week?
Well, that doesn't, we can still have a meeting.
See,
on
David,
holiday.
what we're trying to put together more,
Why?
But
kind of
Doug won't be
succinctly, what we're trying to put together, always in
Well, I
my
want an
mind,
opinion on that. I don't believe it.
it would take sand that period
I
of
don't
time
believe that.
when a breach was gonna happen, not imminent, when it's gonna happen, and you'd be trying to stop it with sand. We've gotta discuss, is that sand totally sacrificial if we throw it out there now? Does
we're
it
not
have,
suggesting that. We wouldn't even bother.
but I mean,
with
does
saying
it have
that.
any use out there now?
We're not
Because it would be
suggesting
gone.
we would use it until we make sure it's not sacrificial.
Okay.
It's backfill.
And that's not, that's almost engineering. I mean, that's beyond me. I can't make
Not
that.
engineering if it's gonna backfill the you know what.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I said. It's
it's the
engineering.
you know what, what?
I said it was engineering.
Yeah. Rich?
So, excuse me.
I somehow think that if you go to enough people and ask them enough questions about what we were just talking about just now, at least one or more of them are going to dream up a lot of different reasons why the town shouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. But there is a chance that I could be wrong on that. While that's going on, I still can't imagine why we wouldn't consult some lawyers versed in this type of law to see if we are getting violated. I believe we are. it is inconceivable that we can't largely protect our own properties, especially considering that we were allowed to last year for what stretched out to be nearly 2.5 months. Is that not true?
We still might be allowed. We haven't answered
Did we not
Well, they
put
can't, we can't,
rocks
right?
and all kinds of other stuffs in the sand for 2 months last year? To protect
Can you say
homes.
that?
Why can't we do that, more of that right now? You can't say that section of beach was straight from heaven and DEP just let us do that, and now this other 100 feet here is sacred ground, can't put anything there, and oh, this other 200, this is ludicrous. We are being violated. The only thing that we can do is go to a lawyer that knows what he's talking about and has some big ones and lay our case out there and see if there's a legal avenue to pursue. We've tried the hands, the on the knees thing for too long. We can try this, see if we can beg $20,000 from the sewer betterment fee and watch, core bags dissolve after the first storm and all that $25,000 worth of sand go back out into the ocean. But nothing is going to be substantive enough as getting permission to put more rock in the sand. And everywhere up and down the coast, wherever there is rock, there is reasonable stability. Starting in Florida, actually, starting wherever you go and working all the way up the coast, wherever it's stable, it's because there's rock or concrete. So,
Example being Hampton Beach, that close.
everywhere. There's no exception to that rule. Just drive around, look around, and it's right there in front of you. We're being violated by DEP because we haven't fought them correctly. They're beating us.
Rich, you as individuals can do that.
Why can't the town do that? That's spending money on legal fees is boom, like nothing.
The reason the town can't do it is
You
because-
have to protect your infrastructure and you have to protect your residents. I believe that's one of your purposes in this world. You are supposed to protect infrastructure and your people. If you can't justify spending $5 or $10 grand to get a legal opinion without having to ask anybody, I would be beyond shocked. Now, I'm not trying to act like I know your job better than you, but I've seen plenty of legal bills in my day, and I've been at plenty of meetings where, oh, yeah, we got to throw another $20,000, $30,000 in the legal budget because of this or that, and legal fees are just part of the deal. And and I believe protecting your citizens and the infrastructure is also part of the deal. If a bridge washes out, all hands on deck, you spend all the money you need to spend to get the bridge back in. It snows an extra 3 feet, you need another $20,000, $30,000, you throw it in the account. There are certain things that require spending of money, and legal fees, I believe, is one of the easiest ones you have at your disposal.
Well, if we're not gonna move forward on this till a special meeting for Monday or Tuesday, whenever that's gonna be, why can't we should leave that on the table?
For the
If we're talking
meeting.
about spending some money out of the betterment fees,
Yep.
it's Sam, whether it's, a legal,
Richie,
Yes, sir.
let me just, and not being negative, I have a little trouble understanding, we're gonna ask for legal counsel.
Yeah.
We're gonna ask, Bob, you got PLF sitting there that's.
If I
done it
was
a
the
million
CEO of Newburyport, I'd call up this guy and I'd say, hey, this is my situation. I got a bunch of people that work for me, their houses are ready to fall in the ocean, and I got a $30 million piping ready to fall into the ocean, and the Department of Environmental Protection is telling me that we can't do anything to protect ourselves.
No, they let you put sand and core bags out, but.
Anything
We're asking.
reasonable
I know.
where you're not throwing $1 in and then 99 cents goes out the window 5 minutes later. And the most the guy can say is, I can't help you, but maybe the guy can say, well, geez, we ran into this problem in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and San Diego, California, and this is how we handled it. We wrote a letter off to the governor, and I think we're getting violated, don't you? How can you put rocks in the ocean one month, and then the next month you can't do it?
You pay one town to do it and not let another town have it.
It's what they got us talked into. It's almost bizarre. Out in front of Kennedy's house down, where is it?
It's high hand.
In Hyannis, they've got a rock thing that you can see from Jupiter that's 20 feet high, and it surrounds the whole island that his house is on. Those aren't dinosaur eggs.
Well, what we would find out, I mean, you know and I know what they're hiding behind is a Berry Beach. And everything is a Berry Beach, but they're hiding behind Berry Beach.
They didn't hide behind it last when? March.
Well, see, that's a whole.
How many
different-
tons? Never mind.
That's a whole different kettle of worms, yeah.
No, it isn't.
You know what,
It's a
everybody-
kettle of worms that they somehow allowed to happen, and now, unfortunately and now they have to live with that thing they hate to live with. Is they set a precedent, and now they're stuck.
And absolutely throw the fact that the water and sewer that they mandated down there is under assault.
Well, yeah, there's 2 or 3 reasons why they sobered up and they allowed it to happen, but it's irrelevant. They allowed it to happen. It's in the ground for X amount of linear feet, and we need a few permission to patch in a couple hundred more linear feet. And they're saying no. This is crazy. They need.
But remember now, the problem with all that, and that's got to go on record. They haven't said no, for the reasons that Mark
They're
said. 'Cause
saying
we don't
no
know.
by way of not saying anything.
But they haven't, you know.
Yes, today, we just aren't moving.
But you know what, guys? I'm looking at the clock. It is now 9:10. There's one message that we all leave here with tonight. This is reaching a boiling point. And that's the message that Commissioner Kimmel should clearly understand, that we're not asking for permission, we're demanding his cooperation. And then, and certainly, he answers to the Governor, Patrick. And this is just the tip of the iceberg all along the coastline. We need cooperation. We don't need permission. It's going to reach a boiling point. How many homes is Governor Patrick going to allow to fall in the ocean on Commissioner Kimmel's watch before he removes them from office? That's the message we want to leave here with tonight. I want to thank all of you. I understand the constraints that the community has with appropriating funds and all that. And I appreciate that you're going to have another meeting early next week. But there's one message. It's reaching a boiling point, and it's not with anyone here. It's with the governor, it's with the commissioner, and the blood is going to be on their hands. And believe me, that's what's going to happen from a media standpoint and an outreach. Our neighbors to the north, Salisbury, they're in the same sad shape that we're in, and as you go all on down the coast. But thank you all for your time.
When's a good night for the meeting for the board?
Well, I have a question. That is, how long is it going to take us to at least get some of the information that we're hoping for? Because there's no point in having a meeting if we don't have the information to discuss.
I'll have the balances tomorrow. I would.
Yeah, I'm thinking more on the legal side of what we can and cannot do with the betterment money, as well as what is our
I
legal
already have
exposure.
that information.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and then the other question, of course, is what is our legal exposure, which is going to be a hard one, but
Yeah.
maybe we can at least bound it a little bit to know,
I'm not so sure that what we can do or what we can't do is not also wrapped up in is what is prudent to do with hard-earned money, with the betterment money. So I think we need, I mean, there's some folks
Next
that can
week's
give us some good advice on how maybe that could be used.
The hard-earned money is the money that was paid into it by Newbury residents on Plum
Absolutely,
Island, correct?
absolutely, absolutely.
What do you need? Do you need a petition
No, it's
signed
not
by
that. I
every
mean, you
member
don't,
that paid into
but
the betterment fee? I'm asking.
What, David,
do you
what
need?
I'm saying is, I think we see your point, and we're gonna research it, but we don't wanna blow your money. I mean,
Thank you.
core bags might have some retention.
We're not asking you for money for bar bags or for sand that's just gonna wash away.
Backfish.
Mike,
But that, all right,
We're asking for the money sand that's gonna be put on the
Make a
beach.
motion.
Backfill.
Listen, I've got one other suggestion. We're gonna schedule a meeting Wednesday night, because Tuesday night's blocked off. Planning board?
Sounds like Monday. We can have Doug.
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday, it's not legal.
You cannot legally have it on Monday.
Joe, would it make sense to have it, I guess, would it make sense to have it earlier in the day?
No.
I don't know how.
No, people can't make it, a lot of people.
Those of us that work
Any-
for a living
anyway,
don't have those kind of
Whatever
options.
day we do it, I suggest that we send a letter to Commissioner Kimmel inviting him here, okay, to give us some solutions.
And maybe the letter should state some of the complications we have.
He knows.
Well, at least we're stating them.
What?
Will the letter come from the town requesting his?
Yeah, from the Board of Selectmen.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Town council, do you have that meeting too?
It wouldn't make sense to have it without her, I don't think.
We need Doug at the meeting.
Depends on
Can
our,
we do it
the
Wednesday
schedule.
somewhere
We
else?
need to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem is that, you know, we can look at our schedule and Thursday would certainly work for me.
It's,
If we want to have other people present, then we've got to coordinate with them.
I think it should be here because this is a big, important issue, and it's important for it to be on television.
What's going on with Tuesday? What's here Tuesday?
Concom.
Move Concom.
We can't. They call the
Well, we
meeting.
don't-
We can't control
We
them.
can meet before
We have a
Concom.
very short meeting.
You need Doug. I think you want.
Oh, you gotta have Doug. But we could meet before
Yeah,
Concom.
what time does Concom meet?
Meet at 7. Why don't we meet at 6?
You think we'll be done in an hour?
No.
Well,
You think that'll be done in an hour?
We won't get Kimmel here at 6.
Yeah, you're not gonna get someone out of his office in Boston up here by 6.
Give it another night. Sort it out. Doug, you want to?
I can ask,
Concom move somewhere else?
I can ask Doug tomorrow if he would consider, moving Concom meeting.
Yeah,
And maybe
and
we
he
could
might have
stick
a
to
lot there and
Tuesday.
might not.
But why don't Kathy and I work tomorrow morning to see about getting everything scheduled? We only need 48 hours for posting. We'll see when town council's available, when Doug's available, if we can move the meeting and get it
All right,
scheduled.
Kathy, can you draft a letter inviting Commissioner Kimmel to the meeting on Tuesday night? And I would like all, what? What?
I think.
Hey, well, tell the people that we're trying, that's all.
We'll have an
They think we
FTC
do
with
nothing
his
up
name
here.
on it, Joe, right in front of the camera.
Yeah.
An FTC with his name over it.
Yep, that's
We'll
right.
address the questions to an
Yeah.
FTC.
No, an empty seat, like they did in the debate,
And he'll be on record as having invited him.
Yeah.
Can we have a representative from Governor Patrick's office here? If not,
He would be okay.
yeah, if not himself.
We can invite him. In the past, I'll tell you what, in the past, we sent a letter, okay, requesting that he send the National Guard up here to help us. We did not even get a reply to it. Okay? This is why it's just like, okay?
Yeah, send a letter.
Yeah.
Another
Well,
FTC.
I would send a letter saying that we would continue his authorization he gave, and we thank him for it, and we plan to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you do it?
No, I'm saying you guys.
He didn't give the town the authorization.
We
Well,
will,
send a
He,
letter.
he gave the property owners his word that there'd be no punitive actions taken against them from their, for what they
And or
did.
the contractors,
What?
or the contractors.
That's right.
Okay, so I'll work a letter with one or two people.
Okay.
And we'll have everyone send it to him, thanking him again for it and the fact that we will continue the process to repair what we started.
Yeah.
Was there a
And
time
do-
limitation to his letter?
No.
It
He-
wasn't.
he-
What are we waiting on?
there was, David, there was never a letter written.
never any, Dave.
What
Don't-
was it?
David,
In the
Dave,
news?
don't ask us that question.
There was no letter.
No letter.
It was verbal. You know what, it was verbal. It wasn't even, I couldn't even get them to give me a quote. They wouldn't even quote it. I tried to get do what you need to do to save your homes in writing, and they wouldn't give it to me.
Well, that's stupid.
The press printed it many times. It was re-
And do me a favor,
printed it.
when you're back home tomorrow, do some homework with your neighbors. Water and sewer binds everyone on Plum Island together. I think it's by far your biggest bargaining chip. The water and sewer affects a lot of homes.
Try and get 50 calls to the
I'm
governor's
just
office
saying it
tomorrow.
over and over
Do
to
we
you
have a
guys.
water sewer commission of any sort?
No,
Newbury.
It's Newbury, because it's Newburyport system.
Right,
We had
but
over 200
Plum
calls
Island
last week.
we should have a Plum Island commission of what, for the water and sewer, to protect our water and sewer. Let's create.
Protect our water.
No, let's have an oversight committee that's constantly
The influence that you would have is go to the Water and Sewer Commission meetings. That would be what you do.
That's fine, but we need
Yeah.
a sanctioned, it has to be a town sanctioned group.
But,
It can't
but
be
we
just
don't
our own.
own the system, that's the problem.
You can create, you have a library committee, create a Plum Island Water Sewer Committee.
The Plum Island Seawall Committee.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
All right, no,
Does it have to be
That's
enforced by
fine.
the town, or we just need to?
No, it has a little more guts to it, it's something the town has created.
I don't think we have any authority on it. That's the problem.
I'm not saying, but, just put some people out there, and we will start putting people under the umbrella of town of Newbury.
All right. All right, anything else? Richie's got one more question, I can tell.
You turn the heat up when it starts getting late and you wanna go home.
We don't have to.
It emanates from me.
Wow. It works.
You want more heat?
All right,
All right,
hopefully we'll see you Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, motion.
Motion adjourned.
Do we have
wanna
more
keep this
stuff to
up on?
sign?
Do you have
Or
more
is that
stuff?
just me? It's all of us?
I know everyone wants to leave.
Warrants we're gonna
Sign.
sign,
Guys have 'em.
Everyone in the room.
but we do that afterwards. You don't have to be in session to sign.